Pour yourself a fresh cup of awakening with Coffee with Wally, the podcast that brews enlightening discussions with a grind of the past and future. Join host and seasoned broadcast journalist Wally Wood of the Wood News Group and co-host Andy Valudes, the marine marketer and master strategist from Marketing Dynamics, as they explore the past, present, and future. Dive into a world where technology and globalization intersect with prophecy. Each week, Coffee with Wally links ancient and recent history to tomorrow, making sense of today's rapid changes through the lens of Revelation 13. Don't miss any episode. Visit coffeewithwally.com and subscribe for your weekly espresso of insight. Coffee with Wally, a fresh cup of awakening, awaits you. Coffee with Wally, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine.
We're back. You're watching Coffee with Wally Web Extra. Here, I'm your co-host. We're here with your host, Wally Wood. Yo, Wally. How you doing, Wally?
Hello, Andrew. With all kinds of technical problems here, we're having to put my fixed photo instead of my video on this particular interview because we're just having all kinds of technical problems. The devil's in the details, but the Lord's getting his glory anyway.
All right. Well, hey, I just want to correct you. That ain't Andy. That's Rocky. I heard
In
his
the
voice.
spirit of our guest, Mr. Termite Watkins, today, I figured I'd do my Wally impression. Of course, in the Marine Corps, we used to say adapt, improvise, and overcome. So when you have glitches in the plan, you got to think strategic and overcome. So we're going to add, of course, when you're watching this video, we're going to have your picture there on the side where it's blank right now. But we have a fantastic guest, Wally. You've been doing this series called Hard Believer. And man, this is probably one of the hardest believers I've ever encountered. I say, you got to fight like Termite, and Termite is a boxing legend. He's a legend here in Houston. He's actually a global legend. We're going to get into the story, but Wally, you're going to lead the interview and then may jump in here and there. But, we're going to have another episode of Coffee with Wally, Web Extra.
Okay. Well, we praise the Lord for the fact that we've got Termite Watkins here. And many of you may not know who he is. You may not know all of his background. And we're going to go deeper into that here in a moment. But Termite is a world-renowned boxing champ, and he lives here in Houston, and he has built his business here in Houston. Termite, how long have you been in Houston? All of your life?
I've been born and raised here. I'm 68 years old, and I was born in 1956 right here in Houston, Texas, and I'm still here in Houston, Texas, because I am a proud Houstonian and a proud Texan.
Very good. You sound like a proud Houstonian. Just as a matter of background, where did you go to high school?
North Shore.
North Shore.
Graduated in 1974.
1974. Well, I got you beat by several years. I went to Lee High School here in Houston and graduated in 69.
All right. We're not too far apart.
Yeah. How in the world did you break into boxing? At what age? And give us a little bit of the course that you had to follow to get there.
I love to tell this story. First of all, I got to go back and say that I had a wild and crazy childhood. My dad was a really, real, true gangster and hurt people and all that. I saw things as a kid that kids shouldn't see.
Really?
But when I was 10 years old and I was going down the wrong track, I was already smoking and drinking and stealing. But my dad come to know Christ. My dad started making his change. And my dad actually came to know Christ before I was 10. But as years went by, he was an on again, off again Christian, alcoholic, drugs and everything else. But then he'd be on fire for God for a year. And anyway, but then his son, me, I was going that wrong way, and he was talking to people. What can I do? How can I help him? And somebody suggested boxing. And so one day I'm out playing at Cimarron Elementary School in North Shore. And all of a sudden I'm going to give you the setting. This emerald green Ford pickup truck, regular cab. If you remember back and then, the shift was on the
Yes.
column
Uh-huh.
shift, and he come pulling up. I'll never forget this truck. He had the big ball on the steering wheel that you could turn it like that, and he pulls up, and I was out in the field, and my dad was talking. They called me in, so I come running in. I said, yeah. What is it? And a man named Joe Dove said he had a beer in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and dark green glasses, and his cowboy hat cupped way over his eyes. And he says, Termite, you want to be a boxer? And I said, yeah. And
And how old
so
were you at the time?
I was 10.
10. Okay.
10 years old. So we went down after practice to my dad's house, or where I lived, 2 blocks away from there. And we put these big gloves on called pillows. And there was 2 twin brothers and the man's son that were with him. And we put the gloves on with one twin brother, and he said time. And I learned real quick that was the same thing as a bell going ding. And he
Huh.
said time, and this guy jumped on me and started whipping me, and he gave me a old fashioned whipping. And then he said time after 1 minute, and he looked over there, and started putting him on the other twin brother. And he said time again. I knew what that meant. So he beat the devil out of me. And I don't know if you've ever been whipped for a minute. That's a long time when you're on the receiving end.
Yeah.
And and then he said time again and put him on his son. And his son was, the better one. And tall and lanky, and he beat the devil out of me, just boxed circles around me. And when it was over, he said, "Yeah, Bill, I think he's going to make it." And I thought to myself as a young kid, what does he think I'm going to make? A punching bag? That night, we went and we weighed in for a Red Shield Boxing Club, their tournament, silver gloves. And I weighed in at a whopping 65 pounds with my clothes on.
Wow.
And the next night I fought and got my tail whipped again. And I lost. And then a week later, I fought and I won. So, but this is 4 tail whippings that I'd
Mm.
had. I had one victory. And victory's sweet, and we all need to taste victory, and we need to let our kids taste victory. We need to help them be victorious. And then a week later, I fought the guy that beat me the first time, and he whipped me again. And me and my dad talked, and I said, Dad, you got to do something. You got to get me another trainer. And he got me a guy named Kenny Weldon. And Kenny Weldon started training me. And it shows how important a good trainer is. And Kenny was a great communicator. And I won my next 65 fights straight without
Wow.
losing. And then I went on to have a great amateur career. I had 128 wins. I had 10 losses. At 16, I was the first to win national competition. It's been done since then, but I was the first 16-year-old in history to win nationals, which gave me a spot on the U.S. Olympic team, one of them. There's actually 5 teams. My roommate that year was a little guy named Sugar Ray Leonard,
Huh.
and you may remember that name,
Yes, I
and
do.
Howard Davis, who also won the gold medal, and that was my roommates. 2 former, they both become gold medalists in the Olympics, and then I turned pro and had a good pro career. So that's how I got started.
Bless your heart. Wow. And so you continued fighting through your high school years,
I did.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And then did you go to college?
No, sir, I didn't. Just the School of Hard Knocks,
Yeah.
and and I never did. In ways I wish I would have, and ways I'm glad I didn't,
Right.
because I'm a perfect example. I've been, to a degree successful, and I always encourage people, whether you have college background or whether you don't, it's your choice if you want to be successful.
Right.
And you just got to find a way. And And that's what part of life is about, at least for me, is always finding a way and seeing what God has next. And I do want to say this. I talk about success. I like to let people know right off the bat, my biggest success is when I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior.
Amen.
And that changed my life.
And how old were you then?
I was actually 16. I won the Nationals at 16. I gave my heart to Christ at 16. But I got to tell you, at 24, I blew it. I'm a Christian. I believe that once saved, always saved, and according to John 3:16, anyway. And but I backslid really bad when I was at fought for the World Championship on the biggest boxing card in history. When Muhammad Ali fought Larry Holmes, it was a double main event. I had the other main event, which was a co-main event and a 15 rounder, one of the last 15 rounders. And but I lost a controversial decision, and so I had a great pro. I'm bouncing around now, but had a great amateur career. Then I had a great pro career. Ended my pro career with about 68 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, and 48 knockouts.
Bless your heart. Wow. Now, so you are officially retired now?
No, sir. Um, Not even getting close to it. I'm not even sure if I want to. You know, I should have retired a while back. I had a chance to go in business. Me and my partner, Bob Howard, are the proud owners of Termite Watkins Pest. It used to be Indo Pest, but we bought it, changed the name to Termite Watkins Pest. It's just booming. And then we also, along with that purchase, we bought a company called Coastal Fumigation. That's when you, fumigators, fumigation is when you put the, um, I'm sorry for that call coming in, trying to cut it off. Anyway, fumigation is when you put the big tent over your house, and we own Coastal is the largest in the state of Texas
Okay.
uh, fumigator, and so I'm back busy. And then, of course, we're working on a movie. We're working on some other things that God may be leading me into.
Right.
So I've just kind of got retirement kind of out of my mind right now.
No
And
time to even think about retirement.
yeah, it's just, when I think about retiring, God put something else in front of me. And so,
Right.
I feel at 68, I feel incredibly healthy.
Uh-huh.
Even though 4 years ago, I was one of the first to get COVID,
Really.
and I was one of the first to go on the ventilator, and I was one of the first to come off the ventilator. I was 18 days on the ventilator, 30
Huh.
days, 30 days in the hospital. And so, needless to say, I've had kind of a intriguing life, an
I
exciting
would say
life.
so, yes. In fact, as I recall reading in your biography, pest control is in your roots as well, isn't it?
Man, the day I was born, I was in pest control. That's how I got the nickname termite. My dad owned a company called Champion Exterminating. And the day I was born, a friend of ours, Leon, started calling me termite the day I was born. And it just stuck with me. And here I am, 68 years old, and I'm still called termite. And no
So
way I could,
for the
yeah,
record, what's your real name?
man, if I told you, well, I'll tell you. uh, Maurice,
Maurice.
but don't you call me that.
Well, see, the thing is, again, when you go online looking for information on Termite Watkins, you get Maurice Watkins back, and I just thought it was a different person. It, they don't even make reference to your real name when you find a page that's got Termite Watkins on it.
Yeah,
So I didn't know.
it was funny when I graduated from high school. The
Uh,
principal got down to my name and he goes, and he looked at the Maurice and he goes, oh, it's Termite Watkins. And and so and the movie that we will be talking about, I'm sure soon.
yeah.
Uh, it will be called either Termite or They Call Me Termite. And
Okay.
so, and I'll tell you how I got to the termite course is needless to say how I got it, but
Well,
they,
were you small when you were born?
I
Smaller than
don't
normal?
think, I don't think so. I was normal, but I think it become more of a joke.
Yeah,
And,
that's
you
because of
know,
your
the,
dad's business.
yeah, the guy worked for my dad in pest
Uh,
control, and he just started calling me termite. And then my brother was 2.5; he could say termite, and the man's daughter was 3, and she could say termite. And so
wow.
it just stuck with me.
Yeah,
And
bless your heart.
who would have ever
Um,
thought that a name would turn out being great just
isn't
called
that
termite?
something? And here we are about maybe halfway through our interview. So let's talk about the movie. This is a most recent discovery and development on your behalf. Tell us what's Balboa Productions are doing it as well.
Yes, sir. There's been a little change.
Okay.
Balboa is who I actually originally signed with, which is Sylvester Stallone.
Uh-huh.
But after I got the COVID, he got really behind on stuff, and I became a number. There was 35 different projects he was working on, and so I made a decision to go with somebody else because
Okay.
they had some language in the script that I just wasn't going to allow.
Of course.
And I'm sorry.
Of course. Yes.
Oh, anyway, so I wasn't going to um, allow the language, and so I started looking for somebody else, and I found him a Christian producer. It's called the Sailor Brothers, and they've done some pretty big stuff and some big documentaries, some good movies, and they've got access to great distribution. So they're doing it. We're rewriting the script as we speak, and we could be into production. We actually could be in production within the next few months.
Few
And
months of 2025.
Breaking news.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, forgive me for asking this while we're live, but my phone's doing weird things. Did I just go off the air?
Nope. You're still
Good.
with us.
Okay, good deal then.
So what's the movie about? Your entire life or just your
No, sir.
professional career?
No, sir. Actually, a little bit of both of them. But in 2003, I had the opportunity, the privilege of going to the country of Iraq. I felt like it was a calling of God, and I answered the calling, did not understand what was going on. I answered the calling, and I got to tell you this little story because this is how the movie will start out. Um, before I left, my former wife said, "What are you out of the blue? What are you going to do if a general cusses you?" And I said, "Well, I'll of course ask him not to cuss me because I don't allow people to cuss me." And she started crying and said, "Don't go over and get sent back. You already made this commitment to go." And so I went over there, and first day in Iraq, the general started cussing me. And I just leaned over his desk and said, "Sir, I think I've made a real big mistake. You should probably send me back to America because if you cuss me again, we're probably going to fight and you're probably not going to win." And he said, and I really told him that. And he said, "Where are you from, boy?" And I said, "I am from Texas." And he said, "You might know it'd be a crazy Texan that would take a stand against a general." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "San Antonio." and and then he gave me a chore. It was a major chore to get rid of some flies, and I didn't have the proper chemicals or proper supplies, and I got rid of them, and I became a hero in his eyes. And the next thing you know, President Bush gets brought into it, and President Bush um, challenges me to get Iraq to the Olympics. And this was the Olympics was going to be in 2004. So so for the next 2 months, 10 months. I'm sorry. For the next 10 months, that was my job, was to get Iraq to the Olympics. And it
Wow.
was a exciting time. I got them there, but we were shot at, we were bombed, we were um, rocket propelled grenades were shot at us, just all kinds of stuff. And so the story is about my calling of God to get Iraq, to go to Iraq, and then the process of getting them to the Olympics in a war, while a war is
Okay.
going on. And it became a major factor on um, getting peace with Iraq. They were bombing us and all that kind of stuff. But then when we told them we were going to get Iraq to the Olympics, they actually started telling us if we were going to get attacked, if we were going to get bombed. The people became on our side. The people fell in love with me, and I fell in love with the Iraqis. And the rest is history. We got
Wow.
them to the Olympics.
A lot of times it takes sports or music to bring people together who otherwise would be warring factors. And history is full of that. So you just went to prove that sports can be the unifying factor between two
Yes,
countries.
yes, sir. Well,
And so we're expecting production to begin on the film in April or May of 2025.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
So you're expecting production to begin on the film probably in May of 2025.
Somewhere around there. It could be before. It could be a little after. The Sailor Brothers, they've got one more before me. If it goes on time, it could actually be by the end of this year. But I've learned in the movie business that nothing goes on time. And so, um, yeah, I think early next year, first, second quarter is really safe to say. And they're talking about releasing it sometime before the 20, maybe in 26, before the 27 Olympics.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're about 20, 21 minutes into this interview. Andy, do you want to add anything in here?
Yeah, what a fascinating testimony and what a living legend. So many things there, right? So in the termite army, I once asked termite, do they let Marines in the termite army, right? We've been talking about the ants. Consider the ant, your sluggards. One of the verses that the Lord showed me. It's about diligence, and termite demonstrates focus, dedication, resilience, being relentless, because that's what it's going to take to be a hard believer, right, Wally?
You betcha. Absolutely. And just kind of bring focus to this idea of hard believer. And as part of the background of these interviews that we're doing and these podcasts, we want to show and to demonstrate to our audience that you don't have to hide in the shadows to be a witness for Christ, to be a
That's right.
testimony for Christ. He wants us in the world, but not of the world.
That's right.
And that's where the kingdom expands, is when people see Christians who are not so churchy as to be irrelevant,
That's right.
right? And Andy and I have got our stories. Everybody's got a story. The
That's
older
right.
you get, the deeper your story goes. And as the Lord has indicated in his word, that even when these things begin to happen that are considered negative, he said, I will have my glory. I will then be known as being the God of the circumstance, no matter how bleak the circumstance. And I think that you've demonstrated that today, Termite, just by sharing the story on how you got started in the field of boxing. And we're quite impressed. I'm impressed that he would take a kid that's born to a pest control fellow and make him into a world champion boxer. That's just
And
amazing to me.
well, I do want to say this. I want to give that glory to the Lord. I thank you for the accolades. Thank you for everything. But, without Christ, I couldn't do anything. But with Christ, I can do all things. All
Amen.
things are possible. And so I do like to make that clear that I'm just a real normal person that God has done some really awesome things with. And if
Yeah.
God can do it through a guy like me, a guy named Termite, a guy that, come up the way I did, God can do great things through anybody out there
Right.
watching this.
And I'm impressed again with what the Lord has said that um, the plans of a man are made in his heart.
That's right.
God directs his every step, and that He is at work within you, both to will and to do His good pleasure. So
Yes.
He's got that plan. He planned for you to be what you are way back before you were conceived, and
Yes.
that's what fascinates me about the genius of God.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome.
Yes, He is. Yes,
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah. Hey, I'd like to throw one more thing out there if y'all allow me.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're running short on time, but I'd love to invite everybody to come to visit Fighter Nation Boxing Gymnasium. We started my church, Brother John Brady, and was pastor and Fellowship of the Nations on the East Houston. Um, we started a boxing club there 15 years ago, and we've been here 15 years later. We've had several hundred young men and women give their heart to Christ through boxing. We've had some of them that's went into different things for the Lord, and I'd love to invite everybody to come by, and it will do your heart good. And just see what we're doing, see the great things God is doing through me and my team. We all give the glory to God, but we're thankful that God's using us to be a part of it. So
And
come on by.
tell
Um,
us your website. Okay, Termite, tell us your website.
Well, I don't have a website. You can look on the internet for Fighter Nation Boxing Gymnasium. It's on Facebook. It's on, I think, Instagram. I've got people that handle all that. Now, my website, um, we're doing something different with it. I won't go into detail right now. It's
Sure.
termitewatkins.com, but it's down right now. But if you need me, you can just call me at Termite Watkins Pest or Coastal Fumigators or call Andy.
There you go.
There you go.
And
Everything gets dumped back on Andy.
yeah,
Termite, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you, and we thank the Lord for the testimony He's giving you, and for the impact you're having, especially in the world of troubled youth. And you're using your gym to bring them around.
yes, sir.
That's tremendous. Really will hear more from you in the near future.
Yes,
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Andy, you got
All
something to
right.
say?
So we want to thank you again. You've been watching Coffee with Wally Web Extra, and we're now outputting shorts that you'll be seeing online as well. And again, you're tuning in to Coffee with Wally, where understanding our times becomes clear over caffeine.